You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
So the fact I have a lot of doctor's appointments and I see my doctors on a regular basis, my relationship with them is probably not the normal relationship people have with their doctors. A lot of times you go to your doctor and you go in, they ask what's wrong, you tell them, they do a checkup, they check a few things, they remind you you're supposed to take all your meds, you probably should lose a little weight. It's a typical doctor's appointment. Out you go, they tell you when they want you back. My appointments are always a little weird with that. Because I see my guys a little bit regularly, we have ongoing conversations and we have topics, and you never know what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to give you 2 examples. Today, I saw one doctor who, after getting me in, asked me a couple questions, said, "So what do you think of these protests?" Now, good rule of thumb is you don't talk politics with people. So the fact that he's comfortable enough to bring that up, and we talked about politics and everything else. But earlier in the week, I saw a different doctor. And he walked in with an agenda. He had something he wanted to talk about. Because it turns out that he decided he'd been reading a lot of fluff stuff lately. He wanted to read something with a little more substance. So he read this recent novel or book about nuclear war from an investigative journalist who broke down what what our defenses are, what the other countries' defenses are, how many weapons we have, all of this kind of stuff. And you could tell that he was ready to talk about it and had been waiting, because he walked in the room, sat down, got out his instruments and went, "So, I've been reading this book." And when we proceeded to talk about nuclear war, and does anybody else have that kind of relationship with their doctors? It's a little strange. Just saying. Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We got an interesting topic today. Of course, if you saw the ads for it, it says why we can't have nice things. And we are going to talk about the Superman image, but I don't think it's going to take the spin that you might think it will take. At least I don't think it will, because I wasn't sure I was going to go this direction. But we got some news to cover first. Hello to Lorena, to Canadian, and to Triple B. Wait, Ed's not here. Hey, Kenneth, how you doing? I don't know. Can we start without Ed? Are we allowed to? Because I kind of feel like we're supposed to, Ed's supposed to be here.
I guess we'll have to make an exception just this one time.
I feel bad about it, though. I do. I guess I'll have to watch it on replay. So, all right. So let's get to the news. There's a big breaking news story that happened just a little while ago. And that is Marvel has added John Malkovich to the upcoming Fantastic Four movie. And this isn't a rumor from, I like to eat toast and these guys. It is from Deadline. So again, pretty serious thing, and they're the same guys that announced that Paul Walter Hauser was joining the Fantastic Four. And like with Hauser, the actual role is being kept under wraps. But this is a pretty interesting casting because they've already added Julia Garner, and we've got Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Eben Moss-Bacharach as the Fantastic Four. So we don't know what these guys are playing. Now, I looked at Paul Walter Hauser when he came out last week, and I immediately thought, that's the Mole Man. That guy looks like the Mole Man, which I don't mean to insult him because I know the Mole Man's not the best. That's kind of like going, he looks like the Penguin. I'm just saying that he could pull off the Mole Man. Malkovich, and this is funny, I saw Variety's coverage of this, and Variety's like, well, roles that Malkovich could play are Galactus, the Wizard, or the Beyonder. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Malkovich as Galactus could be interesting, but they've said they're looking for a Latino for Malkovich or for Galactus. But even still, I don't know if he's got the voice or the face to go under that hood. The Wizard is an interesting choice. I think he could pull that off, but again, that doesn't seem like, I figured should be a younger character. The Beyonder, that is going so far away from the original design, which was pretty much David Hasselhoff, that's just bizarre in itself. So I was looking at him and I thought, my first thought was Red Ghost. Do you guys remember the Red Ghost? He had some apes or different simians or whatever yeah. A Russian guy. And I thought Malkovich does a good Russian accent. Well, no, he does a version of a Russian accent. He does some weird accents sometimes. And then I thought, who he would actually be great at? The Puppet Master, Alicia's father. That would make a lot of sense. And then I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about we're supposed to get Galactus. People keep talking about Doctor Doom. We're getting a very different type of movie here. We got a guy that looks like he could pull off the Mole Man. We got someone that looks like he could pull off Puppet Master. What if we're not getting one villain? We're getting kind of a conglomeration of villains, or like kind of the greatest hits type thing. So we're going to see a bunch of different incarnations of these characters to kind of establish that the Fantastic Four has been around a long time before the big thing. Just a thought. Hey, Jay, how you doing? So that's my thought. All right, let's move on. Marvel Studios co-president Louis D'Esposito and Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige are finally addressing the downturn of success they've been having. D'Esposito says, if we stayed on top, that would have been the worst thing that could ever happen to us. We took a little hit. We're coming back strong. Maybe when you do too much, you dilute yourself a little bit. We're not going to do that anymore. We learned our lesson. Maybe 2 or 3 films a year, 1 or 2 shows, as opposed to doing 4 films and 4 shows. Now, this also goes along with Bob Iger, who said pretty much the same thing. He's like, we're going to do 2 or 3 good films a year and, cut down the number of TV spinoffs. So now the fact that they're only doing 1 movie this year, Deadpool and Wolverine, actually that makes Kevin Feige kind of happy because he says, it's nice to be able to rally behind 1 feature project this year. I'm much more comfortable being the underdog. I prefer being able to surprise and exceed expectations. So it does seem like the last year, which has not been ideal, has set us up well for that. So now that all said, Marvel has 4 films slated for 2025. Captain America Brave New World, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and Blade. Now, with everything that's going on with Blade, it would not surprise me to see it bumped to 2026. But they've got so many TV shows in the works that it's kind of hard to fathom that they're only going to do 2 a year. We've got Daredevil coming up. We've got Agatha. We've got Ironheart. We've got Wonder Man. People are still wanting a sequel to Moon Knight. There's a bunch of other stuff talked about. So we'll have to see. Thunder Dark Avengerbolts. Yeah, we're still not sure what that asterisk is after Thunderbolts, but all right, moving on. Though he wouldn't be returning to it, Chris Pine says he's kind of shocked that Wonder Woman 3 was canceled. He said, I'm stunned that they said no to $1 billion franchise and decided to pivot elsewhere. I'm guessing he doesn't remember Wonder Woman 1984. I don't know what the reasoning was behind it. It's above my pay grade, but Wonder Woman is an incredible character. Patty is such a thoughtful director. Now, Pine, of course, played Steve Trevor opposite Gal Gadot's Diana in both the original Wonder Woman and the sequel, Wonder Woman 1984. And Patty Jenkins had been developing a third film with Gadot in the lead, but her idea was rejected. And we're not sure whether it was rejected by the people who were running everything before Gunn and Safran came in, and they just rejected it at the time that the announcement had been made, or if Gunn and Safran actually came in and said no. But it's pretty obvious that Gunn and Safran are moving away from the whole Gadot, Cavill, Affleck trinity that was created under Zack Snyder. Now, there's nothing currently announced for Wonder Woman. There's talk about a Paradise Island series, but we've heard not very little about that since. But Pine was right about it being a $1 billion franchise. The problem is that Wonder Woman from 2017 made $900 million, or just about $900 million, and scored 93% with the critics, while the 2020 follow-up made $169 million and only scored 48% with the critics. That's a huge drop. So yeah, they made $1 billion, but it took the second film to put him over, and it didn't help much. Hey, Ed's here. Okay, we can continue now. Ed, you missed that John Malkovich is going to be in the Fantastic Four, and Marvel's only doing 2 to 3 movies and 2 series a year going forward. Just so you got it. Okay, this is interesting. The Disney Warner Brothers have announced that they're going to bundle together Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max. Now, the companies are aiming to launch this bundle this summer. The exact launch date and price points have not been announced, but plans call for both an ad-free and an ad-supported version. And this move kind of creates the first cross-company partnership for any of these top-tier services. So that's going to be interesting. It's going to be nice to have them kind of merge together. So now, brands that are going to be affected by this, because, of course, you've got ABC, CNN, DC, Comics, Discovery, Disney, Food Network, FX, HBO, HGTV, Hulu, Marvel, Pixar, Searchlight, and, of course, the main Warner Brothers. Now, and you'll be able to kind of, if you're already on Max, you'll be able to add Disney and Hulu. If you're already on Disney, you can add Hulu and Max. I mean, it's going to work that way. I currently have all 3, so I got to figure out what's going to be the best way to merge all 3. Jay says he's got his thoughts on the suit. Okay, we should call this merged entertainment service. Maybe a name about the transmission line that brings it into our home. I see where you're going with. I see where you're going with that. Yeah. Fans of Friday the 13th got a little knock yesterday. Peacock and A24 are still moving forward on a Friday the 13th prequel series. But Brian Fuller, who was the one who kind of came up with the idea and was in charge, is out. He posted, "For reasons beyond our control, A24 has elected to go a different way with this material. We hope the final product will be something Friday the 13th fans all over the world will enjoy." So the original series, titled Crystal Lake, has scored a straight-to-series order at Peacock in 2022. With A24 at the studio, Fuller was to serve as writer, executive producer, and showrunner. So that's really weird that it got a straight-to-series order And then they got rid of the main guy. Cartoon Studios and the UK's GFM Animation are teaming up to develop and produce animated features based on the Stan Lee universe. Characters and stories from the cartoon-controlled Stan Lee universe will feature in 5 picks, which Cartoon and GFM will develop, finance, and produce together. A team of LA-based writers with previous experience working across Marvel projects have been assembled to develop the first scripts. They're going to be working with GFM in London and Cartoon in LA. Cartoon, by the way, is spelled with a K. You can't see that visually like that. The first 3 treatments will be presented to distributors at the Cannes Film Festival. Rights to Lee's likeness, name, and signature, along with characters he created through Power Entertainment, were sold to Genus Brands Entertainment International, which is now Cartoon Studios, in 2020. It's because of his sexual assault charges. I'm not sure what. Okay, I'm a little lost on that one, Triple B. But in Witcher news, Freya Allan feels kind of bad for Liam Hemsworth, who is taking over the role of the Witcher. Of course, he was named to replace Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia back in October of 2022, but there is still a lot of turmoil among the Witcher fans who were hugely fans of Cavill. And of course, Cavill's leaving still seems kind of murky. There's no definitive answer. Oh, Brian Fuller. Okay. Thanks, Triple B. I didn't know about that one. So, but in an interview with Collider, Alan said, Alan, of course, plays Princess Cerelia or Ciri. She says, I don't want to speak for him, but from what I've understood, I feel like, honestly, because number one, the fan base can be very attacky, and it's not an ideal situation to be taking up someone else's role. But I'm really excited to see what he does. And he's such a lovely guy. I just hope that people give him the time of day, you know? Now, the 4th season production of the series started last month. It will be the next to last season. They're going to do a 5th season as well. And it's already been announced that 5th season's coming and it will be the end. I saw a picture of him done up as Geralt. Yeah, we're really going to have to be nice. It did not look good, but it was just a side shot type of thing. It wasn't a production shot. So hopefully they'll fix that up. Animated fans, Batman Cape Crusader, the new series from Warner Brothers and Bad Robot and Six in Idaho, is going to be on Prime Video starting August 1st. There'll be 10 episodes dropped at the same time. The series, of course, comes from J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves, and Bruce Timm. In the series, the corrupt outnumber the good as criminals run rampant and law-abiding citizens live in constant state of fear in Gotham City. Forged in the fire of tragedy, wealthy socialite Bruce Wayne becomes something both more and less than human, the Batman. His one-man crusade for justice attracts unexpected allies with the GCPD and City Hall, but his heroic actions spawn deadly unforeseen ramifications. So they're doing a Batman series, right? I mean, that's pretty much Batman. Warner Brothers has officially announced it will be returning to Middle-earth on a first quarter earnings call Thursday, today. CEO David Zaslav said the company is now in the early stages of script development for a new Lord of the Rings movies, which he says they anticipate releasing in 2026, and they'll explore storylines yet to be told. Now, the first film will be called Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum. That's just a working title. But Andy Serkis is set to star and direct in the feature. Zaslav said that director Peter Jackson, along with his writing partners, Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, will be involved every step of the way. Boyens and Walsh will write the screenplay. The deal covers 2 films in the franchise. Jackson's put out a statement saying it's an honor and a privilege to travel back to Middle-earth with our good friend and collaborator Andy Serkis, who has unfinished business with that stinker. As lifelong fans of Professor Tolkien's vast mythology, we are proud to be working with WB Chiefs Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi and the entire team at Warner Brothers on another epic adventure. So more Lord of the Rings is coming, and more Precious. So, all right, guys, that's the news. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about why we can't have nice things. Be right back.
In a world where you hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, that'd be really great. Thanks.
You love comic books. You collect comic books. But even if you own a rare, expensive issue, it's still a copy. How would you like to own a piece of comic book history? The actual art pages the comics were made from? Oh no, you say. That's too expensive. Regular people can't afford that stuff. Can they? Nick Barucci says yes. Join the founder of Dynamite Entertainment for the original art experience on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. Incredible art at almost unbelievable prices. Does he have some high-dollar pieces for the high rollers? Sure, but Nick always makes sure to find amazing pieces priced for the fledgling collector. You can collect original comic art. The original art experience. Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Part of the experience. There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. It is Thursday, so tonight we have what's in the box. We've got 360 Comics, I think it is. No. Geek Chat, and of course we have SketchUp. Now, I don't know who the guest on SketchUp is, but Geek Chat's got some fun stuff, and Jen's got some really weird comics on what's in the box this week, so you want to check that out. Oh, Jay says, remember what Dan said about Liam's picture is Gerald? That's how I feel about those suits. Yeah, I have very different thoughts on the suit. But let's jump into this, okay? The latest fervor online right now, of course, is the photo that James Gunn released of David Corenswet in the new Superman costume. Now, this is a regular thing. As new actors take on the role, we get that first official image. And while this one's different than previous incarnations, the response was about the same. People loved it. People hated it. People were now certain that it was going to be the best Superman movie ever. And people think it's for sure going to be a flop. Some were elated to see the red trunks were back, yet angry over the high collar. Some love the moodiness of the image, while others likened it to being feminine. I swear to God, this is real, because he's pulling his boots on. Some like its realistic design, while others think it's too baggy. Some are upset by the padding in the suit, while others think it's great that Corn Sweat bulked up so much he didn't needed a padded suit. This is all real responses I saw out there. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's impossible to please everyone. But rather than accepting the things they like or waiting to see what it looks like in an actual movie, because remember, this is going to be in a movie. It's going to move. Still shots are never a good example for a comic book character or for a costume. But all these people who are responding to it, they've taken to social media to shake their fists at the world. And this is why we can't have nice things. Do you remember when the first image of the Batman came out? I believe it was of a stuntman in the bat suit on a motorcycle at a cemetery, and people went insane. They hated it. They hated the images of emo Bruce Wayne that followed. And the movie was going to be a disaster, except that it opened for 134 million and made 772 million worldwide over its theatrical run. Now people are excited for the sequel and the upcoming Penguin spinoff series. Well, there are still people who hate the movie and think they should have just kept Ben Affleck in the role instead of recasting Robert Pattinson. Now you can imagine what the internet would have looked like if it had been around when Michael Keaton was the first announced to play Batman in the 80s, right? I mean, seriously, I was there for that. People went insane. You're getting Mr. Mom to play Batman? This is why we can't have nice things. We're going to get to that, Jay, about Solaris. I don't know a lot about the Superman comics in the Death Star kind of thing. A hint. Yes, we're going to get to that. I liked it. I'm fine with the changes, the costume a bit. I like to see different versions. Yep, there you go, Lorena. Good. See, I like that. I like that open-mindedness. That's what you need. Now, you remember when Gal Gadot was cast as Wonder Woman, right? People hated the idea, saying she wasn't a good enough actress or wasn't physically big enough for the role. And when they say big enough, they weren't just talking about her height or her muscles. Seriously. There were people complaining that she... Nick. Hey, Nick. Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, Cesar Romero did interviews talking about how bad he expected the movie to be. And that's it to mean and not fun. Yeah. See, that's the thing with the people jump on these things and they go absolutely insane. And this negativity gets out there. And then you have people who don't read articles or don't read, and make up their own opinions. They see a bunch of negative posts and they just assume the movie's going to be crap and they don't go see it. And then you get the box office crashing and you don't get another Superman movie or another Batman movie. Ed says, I had my opinion on movie shows until I actually see them. I know, weird concept. Nick said he hated what the movie was doing with the Joker. Yeah. And if you don't like it, just say not for me. Exactly. You don't need to go out and post like crazy that it's the worst thing ever, because that's why we can't have nice things. I was talking about Wonder Woman and Gal Gadot and how she wasn't big enough to be Wonder Woman. Now folks are upset because they're not going to do a Wonder Woman 3. It made 900 million, but they're not going to do a Wonder Woman 3. And they're blaming James Gunn for getting rid of her. This is crazy. Tobey Maguire. They said Tobey Maguire was going to be a horrible Spider-Man. Hugh Jackman was way too tall to be Wolverine. You can't hire Chris Evans to be Captain America. He was already the Human Torch. The chubby guy from Parks and Rec can't be Star-Lord. See, I could go on and on and on and on with these things. People have complained about way before the movies actually premiered. That's the thing, is they don't actually wait to see the movie. As for why people do this, I don't have the knowledge or the psychology degree to answer that, but I have seen why too many times the studios have played to fans' outrage, only to end up with making things worse. How do you think DC got to where it is right now? Zack Snyder put out the movies. People are like, oh, they're too dark. Oh, they're horrible. DC scrambled, got rid of Snyder, brought in people to lighten it up. And a couple did well, and then they all started going to hell again. And they just kept changing the people running it and trying to answer fan service or fan demands. And we ended up having to fire everybody and get a clean slate. This is why we can't have nice things. But let's take a look at what people are specifically getting upset about this time. Because last time, they were sure that the symbol on Pattinson's chest was actually a gun. That's what they were talking about, is that it was going to come out and it was going to be the gun that killed his parents. We never saw that in the movie. And he never fired a gun. Now, let's start by separating out the image from the costume complaints. We have a battle-weary Kryptonian pulling his scarred costume back on as there's a glowing ball of doom outside the window. Now, one of the things James Gunn's talked about with this film is how he wants to show how Clark has to find a way to merge his Kryptonian heritage with his Kansas upbringing. And I think this will mean leaning on Clark's humanity a lot. And we see this here. Sure, Gunn could have released a classic image of him, ripping open his shirt and revealing the S logo, or standing mightily with his hands on his hips in a, typical Superman pose. But we've seen all that before. Christopher Reeves, Brandon Routh, Henry Cavill, and all these others have given us the strength and courage of the Man of Steel, the godlike figure that saves mankind over and over again. And that's kind of the alien side. That's Kal-El. That's definitely the side Snyder focused on. We got so little of Clark Kent in those movies that if that's what Gunn just wanted to be different, could focus on Clark Kent. We never really saw him doing any of the Clark Kent stuff. Now, if you're going to do a new take on Superman, you need to do a new take. And if Gunn is focusing on the humanity, then it's a little different than what we've done with the other directors. The mood, the lighting, everything else about this photo reminds me that at the end of the day, Superman was still raised on a farm in Smallville, and he puts his boots on one leg at a time. Now, let's look at the costume, because I know that's what everybody's freaking out about. When I saw this image, I knew it was Superman in the chair. No mistaking it. Corin Sweat looks the part. He's also the tallest Superman we've ever had. He's 6'6". The costume has enough of the classic look that it's obviously Superman. And the floating space ball tells me some bad stuff is going to happen. That's another thing I keep seeing people going, there's no sense of urgency. It's a still photo. What sense of urgency are you looking for? It's one still photo. It's not a video. It's not a clip. It's him putting his uniform back on, or his costume back on, and it looks like his costume's been beat to hell. So why are people complaining about the costume? I've heard some say that it looks like a cosplayer. Yet I've heard other people say that the costume doesn't look like it's something Martha Kent could have made. Now, I don't know if they're going with the homemade costume route. I mean, Snyder got rid of that. But are people trying to say that Martha Kent couldn't sew a cosplay costume? Because I think Jonathan might have a few words with them about that. Now, other people are complaining about the high collar, saying it looks militaristic and that they should have gone with the open neck. Yet Superman has had the high collar in various incarnations of the comics. He's had it for a long time since the New 52 came out. The red trunks are back. At least they look like they're back, because we don't see them very clearly here. We get a hint. I mean, if you zoom in and then you realize where you're zooming in, that's kind of weird. I mean, really. But anyway. So the trunks are back with the collars high. And I know some people who hate the trunks. They never wanted them back. And I know other people who hate the collar. But I know some people that like the collar and hate the. I mean, it's all over the place. It's hard to. So we need to wait and see what the image looks like in other pictures too, and in motion. But the main thing people are complaining is that it doesn't have the classic look. And I have a hard time figuring out exactly what the classic look is. This costume has changed more than 40 times since its debut in 1938. Every animated series and live action interpretation has its own look. And the truth is that every time a new artist signs on to the comic, they tweak the costume into their art style. The size of the S gets bigger and smaller. John Byrne drew a giant S. Yet Brandon Routh's S in the Superman Returns was tiny, and people complained about that. And his trunks got almost Speedo-like. The costume's changing constantly. We've got an image. JD, put that image up of all the different costumes. Seriously, those are all different costume designs from 1938 to 2011. You guys remember that electric blue one from 1997? The black and silver regeneration suit? And these aren't even all of them. Every movie's got its own version. Every show. And it says if they want the classic look, they want an upside down yellow triangle with a crayon looking S on it. Yeah, the original design had no red boots. Look at Action Comics #1. There's no red boots. It's a yellow, almost like a police badge with a little small red S on it. And of course, you have drastic changes like the black and silver look from Reign of Superman, the electric blue look from when he had his powers changed, the 90s look with the straps and pouches where he got kind of an upgrade from Mother Box. The Superman Beyond look that updated him to match Batman Beyond. Then there was the Kryptonian military suit he wore in World of New Krypton. Then there's the remember the jeans and t-shirt look from the New 52, but at the same time, we got the Jim Lee redesign that looks probably the closest to what James Gunn is using, except for it didn't have the trunks. It had a different kind of belt. Red Sun had its own look too. Kingdom Come. That's where the logo we have now comes from. The Alex Ross designed logo from Kingdom Come. They're all very different. And he's taken existing, it's not like he's changing it to where it doesn't look like any of them. It's like he took the Jim Lee suit, he put the Alex Ross Kingdom Come logo on it, changed the black to yellow, put on the trunks and the shorts from the classic look, and you've got Superman. Yeah, there's also Superman Red to go with that. So the bottom line is, when you look at him, you know he's Superman, right? But you also know he's not Henry Cavill. So you don't have to keep all the stories and history that came with the Zack Snyder universe. He's not Brandon Routh. He's not Christopher Reeves. He's not Tom Welling or Tyler Hoechlin from Superman and Lois. He's his own version of Superman. And by changing the costume all the time, it kind of feeds into that. It allows it to become its own version. Like they've done this with every Batman movie. Every Batman has his own bat symbol. I've seen, there's a chart, I don't have that one, but there's a chart that shows every different Batman's version. Michael Keaton had a different one from Val Kilmer, had a different one from George Clooney, had a different one from Affleck and from Bale, and of course from Pattinson. They changed the Batman logo every single time. They make the character unique because they're saying we're starting over. Reeve, George was Reeves. George Reeves, okay. Christopher Reeve, George Reeves. So Superman's been around for 85 years. His costume has constantly been changing to some degree, but never so much that when you look at it, you don't know who it is. Well, except for that weird-ass electric blue one. Anyway, no one looked at the image and wondered who it was. but just about everyone had something they wanted to complain about. And that's why we can't have nice things. And besides, the thing people should be trying to figure out is that giant freaking ball of doom in the background. Seriously, that's our biggest clue to the story, and people are more focused on his collar and his trunks. That could be something Lex Luthor created. It could be something from Apocalypse. It could be Brainiac's ship. Or, and some people are suggesting this wasn't me, there are a lot of people out there pushing this one. Even Jay mentioned it. This could be Solaris, the Tyrant's son. Now, the reason people are suggesting that is because James Gunn has come out and said, All-Star Superman, big influence on this story. Solaris, the Tyrant's son, was a big part of it. Now, if that's going to be your big inspiration and we're seeing this thing that looks like the bad guy, you got to consider it. Now, who is Solaris? Or what is Solaris? It's kind of hard to figure out if it's a he or an it or the. I haven't had a chance to ask it its genders. Well, they first appeared in DC 1 Million, #1, written by Grant Morrison and drawn by Val Semix, and was set in the 853rd century. Solaris was an enemy of Superman's descendants and was responsible for turning the android Hourman against the Justice League in our time. It was a very strange story. And I don't think it's necessary to this plot. It's just where the character first appeared. And all of this was a plot to kill Superman, but he failed, of course. Or they failed, of course. Now, Morrison, of course, when he went on to write All-Star Superman, brought Solaris back. But this time as kind of an ally to Lex Luthor, and Solaris turns the sun blue. And Superman ends up having to borrow a Green Lantern ring to defeat Solaris. Now, I don't know if you guys have remembered, but there's a Green Lantern in this movie. Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion. And what is the reason Superman is slow? We're seeing that picture now. The sky is all kind of blue and purple. What if we're seeing is a depowered Superman? That's why he's slowly changing his costume. Yet he's still suiting up to go fight. That's a humanity. That's the kind of Superman that people want. That even if without his powers, he would still put on his suit and go out there to fight. Maybe that's what we're getting. But the bottom line is we don't know. So to come out and have this vitriol against it because the collar's too high or you don't like the S. Seems like we should probably wait and see what the movie is. See, that's the problem with getting upset because of a single still shot when you don't know the plot, the rest of the characters, or even what the suit will look like in motion. You put that negativity out there and it spreads. And, living with Lisa has taught me something interesting, is there are so many movies that she hasn't seen. And I'm like, hey, do you want to see this? She goes, no, I hear that's horrible. And I said, well, what do you mean you hear it's horrible? Well, I hear it online that's horrible. I'm like, well, from where? Oh, I just see headlines and posts. If you're a fan of superhero movies or of the genre and you want it to succeed, putting that negativity out there, especially when it's on something as little as a still shot, you're feeding into that narrative. You're feeding into this negativity that's been permeating the industry where everybody, goes out there and they post negative headlines to get clicks. And then people click just to see what they're talking about and then leave. So they don't even read the whole thing. I could have come out and said that my episode was why this is the worst Superman suit ever. And I probably would have got a lot more hits. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to feed into that negative. Because that negativity, that's why we can't have nice things. We'll take a break. We'll come back with some key collectibles. Be right back.
Twitch, it's not just what happens when you have too many energy drinks anymore. Check out our content over there, too.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you. Ask your local comic shop to add Battle Quest comics to your pull list today.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. Hey, do me a favor. Hit that like button, the thumbs up button, all those things down there, because that helps us out a lot. And tell your friends about the show. We want to grow this audience and get a few more people in here and get the conversation flowing. And thank you guys for being part of the conversation. I really appreciate it when you guys add your comments and tell me what you like, which costumes you like. The pink hood on Batman always made me crack up too, Ed. And I am a huge Jim Lee fan art-wise. So Superman Unchained was one of my favorite Superman comics in a long time. I loved that look, and I loved Jim Lee's art on it. My favorite DC story is Batman Hush. You know, I just loved Jim Lee's art. I own a page of that. I used to own a page also of Jim Lee's the Superman story he did with Brian Azzarello, but I ended up selling that one off. But I kept the Hush page, and it's Bruce Wayne and Tommy Elliott in the back of a limo in Metropolis. You know, and that's just love that page, and I love Jim Lee's art. So Superman Unchained was one of my favorites. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. All right, we got some key collectibles to go through here. I tried to pull up some of the ones where Superman's costumes changed, but I did the best I could. Of course, Action Comics #1. I mean, even he's got little red booties on here, but in the book, he just had blue leggings. This one, of course, 1938. High end is 4.6 million. Median is 1.1 million. Low end is 285,000. I personally don't know anybody who owns that book. This is Neil Adams' iconic cover from Superman 233 from 1971. This is probably as close as a classic look that we know of. This is what everybody thinks of as Superman. This goes for $450. Median's $135. Low end is $45. Then we have, this is when John Byrne took over. The S got a little bigger. John liked to draw a big S. And this became kind of the quintessential Superman for a long time. Man of Steel #1 from 1986. High end on this is only $5. Median is $2. Low end is $1. Great series, though. And this is a reimagining of Superman, changing up Krypton. A lot of great stuff. If you haven't read the Man of Steel stuff from John Byrne and you're a Superman fan, you definitely should be reading this. Action Comics 689 from 1993. This is where we get that first look at the black and silver regeneration suit. High end on this is only $8. Median is $2. Low end is $1. Seems like a lot of the great Superman stuff is still at a fairly reasonable price once you get out of the 1970s. So, Kingdom Come #2. This is where we get Superman with the S that we're now seeing on David Cornsweet, except for with the yellow instead of the black. High end on this is only $5. Median is $2. Low end is $1. He's got a big S. Yes, Al Pacino. Superman Forever #1, 1998. I couldn't find the book that the first electric blue suit appeared and get a price for it. That's the problem, getting the price for it. But this is when he changed back for the first time to that look, and he's 1998. High end is $5, median is $2, low end is $1. Superman Red Sun, Ed had mentioned that earlier. Great suit. Superman Red Sun #1 from 2003. High end is $15, median is $5, low end is $1. Now this one's kind of interesting. I got this in here twice. This is Action Comics #1 from 2011. This is where Jim Lee's take on the character, which is similar to what we're seeing. High end 5, median 2, low end 1. But it's also where the debut of this other suit, the next one, the Superman in the jeans and the t-shirt, which I did not understand. So same book, just two different takes on it. Yeah. And finally, Superman and the Authority. This is from 2021, but that's a very different costume. He's got that S with the black on it. He's got more of a short sleeve jumper look with a full red belt. High end on this is 5, median is 2, low end is 1. But yeah, that's a completely different Superman look. And I think that's the bottom line here, is that it's just, you gotta go with the flow on this. Different people are going to want to make it a different look. James Gunn is coming out with his take on Superman, his story, his costume, and you either watch it or you don't, but he's going to do it his way. Just like when Jim Lee sits down, he draws Superman his way. You know, DC used to be a lot stricter on it in the 60s and 70s and 80s. I mean, when Jack Kirby came over from Marvel to DC, he would draw Superman his way, and they had someone else come back in and redraw the faces because the faces didn't look enough like how they wanted Superman to look. But that was a long time ago. You look at the Superman Reigns and the Death of Superman series, and you have some very different artists drawing. You have John Bogdanova, who draws very blocky, kind of angular characters. And then you have Dan Jurgens, who's a little more of the classic look. And you got these different artists working on the same story. So, just, you can hate it. You absolutely can hate it. You can not like it. I just don't see the need to go out and rant about it, to go out and call it the worst book in the world or the movie in the world, or to call out. I've seen a lot of people redoing the picture with the costume as they think it should be. It's like, look, James Gunn's going to make his movie. He's going to make it with the people he wants to make it with. He's going to make it with the costume he wants to use. So railing about it, I don't know what you're hoping to get from that. You know, I get you're upset, and I appreciate that. Like I said, there's characters that I want to see a certain way because that's how I grew up with. But Henry Cavill's not going to come back. That suit's not going to return. And a lot of people hated that suit because it didn't have the red trunks. Brandon Routh is not going to suit up again as Superman. We got him back in Crisis on the Arrowverse, and that's about as close as it's going to come. Yeah, Sonic fixing his eyes, that's a rarity, not going to be a regular thing. You know, you don't see Kevin Feige re-releasing the Marvel movies because, you know, people weren't happy with how this came out or that came out. It's not going to happen. They're going to make the movies how they want to make them, how they think it is. And Gunn has been successful. That's the part that blows my mind. James Gunn has done great with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and people really like his Suicide Squad movie. So why is it everybody assumes Superman's going to suck? Well, it's not. It's that people are just... The people who are angry are the loudest voices. Happy people don't rant online. So when you see a bunch of negativity online, realize it's probably not the majority. It's just a very vocal minority. And that's why we can't have nice things. So thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to stick around for What's in the Box, Geek Chat, and Sketch Up tonight. Tomorrow will be the original art experience with Nick Barucci, and Friday Night Live with Nancy McCann. So you want to stick around for that. And remember, on Saturdays now, we have Fat Jacks is now on Saturdays instead of Sundays, and we have Jam City. So good stuff on Saturday too. So stick around for all that. I will see you next week. Have a good weekend.
Bye.